Hey there, welcome to day 26 of the Get Up and Go Challenge. Sharon Horne-Ellstrom here, and I'm excited about today because we've got a fun exercise today, and it's one of my favorite topics. I didn't realize it was one of my favorite topics, but over the years, it's become really, really powerful and one of the most powerful tools in my secret toolbox to move in the direction that I want to move with my life in any area of my life, right? And that is to question all. Question everything. Everybody says question everything, so I like question all, question it all, question everything. Now, why do I like questions? Probably 40 years ago, again, when I first started following big thought leaders like Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, I think Les Brown might have even been around back then, Brian Tracy, all kinds of amazing people, Jack Canfield, that are still around today. One of the concepts I learned from them, and I don't even remember who I exactly learned it from, was the power of questions. And the truth is, we are questioning everything. Our brain automatically thinks in questions. Our subconscious automatically questions everything. Is it safe? You know, should I eat it? What should I do about everything I come in contact with? And our brain asks and answers questions, because whenever a question is asked, an answer will automatically follow. Now, it might not be the right answer for us, but our subconscious is going to divvy up answers based on our past experience, primarily to keep us safe. That's why it's important for us to be and pay attention to the questions that we're asking. And I'm going to share a story with you that it demonstrates the power of questions in our life, whether we believe it or not. Because prior to this event in my life, I had heard about questions and the importance of questions, but I wasn't necessarily using them to make my life better or using them in ways that enhanced my life. Back 10 years ago, I had a sudden cardiac arrest. And after that event, I was lucky enough to survive that. I woke up in the hospital. I sat bolt upright. And I had, of course, I'd been in a coma for over a week. I had no idea what was going on, where I'd been. And so the first words out of my raspy throat, because there'd been a respirator down my throat for over a week, breathing for me, and they'd been filtering my blood, so I was freezing and shivering, and I didn't know where I was or why. And I remember, you know, I could barely see. My eyes were fuzzy and my vision was fuzzy. But as my eyes opened and I sat bolt upright, the first thing out of my mouth was, of course, what the fuck? Now, sorry to swear, but that is the first thing that came out of my mouth was that expression. And as I unfolded this experience, as I went through the weeks of cardiac rehab and recovery, and I got my Ironman, I had another surgery to install a cardiac device so that if my heart gives me trouble, it'll kickstart me again, which I didn't think it would ever go off, but I had that experience as well. But that whole event got me to thinking about this whole power of questions and questions things, and that Tony Robbins, I think, is the one that talked about it, because I went and Googled it after I realized that my family had been laying bets on what the first thing I would say would be when I woke up. And my sister and my daughter both had known that my first words were going to be WTF. Now, I didn't even consciously know that that was the question that I was asking myself all of the time during that time period. For a while up to and leading to that event, but especially the month prior to that event. I remember probably August 8th it was, I think it was August 8th, that something happened in my life that shook me to my core, broke my heart literally, and it shone a negative light on many other aspects of my life. Not every aspect of my life, but more aspects of my life than my personal little red wagon could handle. My marriage was imploding, and imploded. That was the trigger event. My businesses in different areas were struggling. We were in a lawsuit with the city that we live in over one of the businesses. Had a business partner that got us in that trouble and in a whole bunch of other trouble. Just all kinds of things were going on. I wasn't taking care of my health. Up to that point, I had fallen into some very bad habits, and I wasn't sleeping, I wasn't eating right, I wasn't taking care of myself at all. And it all culminated in this event. But as I unraveled that event in the year that followed, because it was a long journey to figure out what the heck happened to me. I had no idea. I had never really even heard consciously of a sudden cardiac arrest before I had one. So how the heck did I have this event? A sudden cardiac arrest is an electrical failure in a part of your heart that your heart just instantly stops beating. It just shuts down immediately. And I didn't even know what that was. So I was really curious about why, and the doctors, it was, when I woke up, there were literally hundreds of people came into my room to see me and say hi and congratulate me for being back and waking up. It was the weirdest thing ever. And I didn't realize until after I got out of the hospital how rare it was that I did wake up, that I was conscious, that I knew who I was, that I had most of my memories, that I could talk and I could function for a lot of reasons that have to do with that type of a health event. And I didn't get it. I didn't understand why these people were all so enamored that I was awake, because I virtually had been doing something, dropped dead, and then over a week later woke up in the hospital wondering what the heck had happened to me. So that led me on this curious journey to try to understand it and try to unravel it a little bit more, because I knew, reading the research, that if I didn't make massive lifestyle changes, I wasn't going to be alive in 3 years. I wasn't going to be alive for sure in 6 years, because statistically it just wasn't going to happen. And that wasn't an option for me. Now it's 10 years later, so it's really interesting when something like that happens to you, you actually count and have anniversaries of that and pay attention to it. I was super excited when I got past my 3-year anniversary and actually started celebrating my death day, because it actually means a little bit more to me now, even more than my birthday. So I know that's weird, and maybe somebody who's been through a similar experience understands what I'm talking about, but I actually really appreciate and am grateful for that day, because it absolutely positively changed the trajectory of my life. But one of the big things that I knew I needed to look at was, and I realized that the questions I was asking myself the month leading up to that culminating event would be the cardiac arrest were horrible, right? And they weren't questions that I normally ask myself in my day-to-day activity. Why is this happening to me? I was going into massive victim mentality. Why is this happening to me? Why does this always happen? Why do other people never do what they say they're going to do? How come I can't count on anybody? How come I have to do everything myself? And I kept saying over and over and over again, probably hundreds of thousands of times, I can't handle this. I don't know what to do. This is just one more thing. To the point of my brain and my body just finding a way to shut itself down and to turn it all off, because I needed to have the pattern interrupt of not asking myself those totally killing questions. So to me, that is the power of questions. Questions can create us, but questions can also destroy us. So I knew that WTF, and I thought about it, WTF is a very, very bad filter of everything that happens to us, right? And I don't remember consciously when I switched to that, probably when I got married. But I don't know when I consciously made that a powerful question in my life and an underlying current in my thought process. I'd have to think back and try to figure out, well, when did I actually start thinking that way? Because I didn't always think that way. Something must have happened to trigger that. It doesn't matter, right? It doesn't matter when exactly and where for me to unravel that. That's not going to add any value to my life. What was valuable was recognizing that was a very disempowering, victimizing question, and that I needed to substitute it with something else. So I thought for a couple of days. I actually researched it, Googled it, and I said, what's a power question? And then I read some stuff from Tony Robbins, listened to some stuff, and I said, all right, I need to come up with my own power question. So I went on some walks, I did some meditating, I thought about it for a few days, and I came up with, and I had a bunch of them, but I finally settled on, what am I creating now? Because I can ask myself that question whenever I'm feeling a little off. What am I creating now? Well, if I'm feeling off, and if I keep feeling off, what is that going to create in my life? It gets me to notice and be present with what I'm thinking right now, which we talked a little bit about yesterday, and letting go of the past. And it gets me to say, okay, well, if I keep thinking this, and if I keep feeling this way, what am I going to create for my future? So what am I creating right now in this moment, and how might that play out and impact my future if I continue down this track, if I keep thinking this way, right? So that became my new question. What am I creating now? And for years, that's been my go-to whenever I feel a little bit icky or off, or get up on the wrong side of the bed, because that was the idiom we talked about today in Supersize Your Business. I will stop myself as soon as I consciously am aware of it and ask myself, what am I creating now? And if it's of what I want to create, if it's thinking the way I want to go, which I usually don't ask that question to myself consciously unless I am thinking in the wrong direction, but it can go both ways, right? I can ask myself, I'm working on a project, I'm developing something, I'm creating something. Is it going in the direction I want it to? Does it feel like it's going in the right direction? So that's kind of how I do my challenges. I'm like, what am I creating now in this challenge? What am I trying to create? And that's how I decide what the topics are for any given day. What is the direction that I want to take the folks that are participating in the challenge and myself in the challenge? What's the direction that I want to go? What do I want to focus on today to make a step toward what I want every single day? Now, that reminds me to remind you, are you taking a step toward what you want every day? It doesn't have to be a giant step, but you want to make a step, even a teeny tiny move in the direction of what you want every single day. Every day of your life? Yes. Every single day of your life from now on, you always want to be moving toward what you want. And, you know, the 7 areas of our life, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, financial, relationships, and contribution, they'll have different importance during different times of our life. Different stages of our life require us to emphasize different aspects of our life more or less. When you're raising young kids, relationships are more important, and that part of your life needs more time and energy than maybe finances. Ooh, that's taboo to even suggest that people should pay more attention to their family and their relationships than their money and their job. Oh my God, in corporate America, if I would have said that, I would have gotten fired, right? Yeah, do family first in corporate America. Yeah, I don't know if it's changed. I haven't been there for a few years, but that would have been absolutely grounds for me getting a performance discussion if I had actually said something like that to people. Now, I treated people like, hey, your family and your health is more important. Take care of yourself and your family first. That's why you're here working. And so if somebody had a challenge, I always, and being the only woman, I got away with that a lot, could make sure that people were taking care of their priorities and what's really important to them versus I got to be here no matter what. I was, though, when I was younger, I fell into the traps of what's expected. The corporate America, you got to do this. I mean, I would go to work when I was like practically on my deathbed, and I would sequester myself in my office, but I would be there and I would show up pretty much no matter what. I think in my corporate years of work, with the exception of my kidney surgery, because I had kidney surgery, but I went to work the day that I ended up having to have emergency kidney surgery. I was there. I was at my team meeting. I was working at Procter & Gamble back then, and I was there with my team, and an hour after my team meeting, I had a migraine. I just had a terrible headache. An hour later, I was laying on the concrete floor in my office in writhing pain, and finally one of my team members came in and they're like, what the heck? You need to go to the hospital or go home. And then I finally did, but I had that sense of you got to be at work no matter what. And nowadays, I think one of the blessings coming out of COVID-19 will be that we will learn to be considerate of other people. And when we're sick and contagious, we'll keep our butts home. We won't go to work because you know what? Back then, making toilet paper wasn't more important than me dropping dead and having emergency kidney surgery. But this will be a huge shakeup of our priorities, and it'll be a positive, good shakeup of our priorities. It will show us individually what's important and how we need to create and structure our lives to make sure that we're honoring that, honoring what is right for us and best for us, right? And not in a selfish way, but in a way that makes each of us be doing that, the whole, much more powerful and much more moving toward the light, moving towards success, right? So today our assignment is, we got a couple things. I've got an activity again from I gotta take my notes off for another activity, the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff workbook. And I'll be perfectly honest, the reason I am picking a lot of things from this particular workbook, I have so many other resources I love and would love to share with people on a deeper level, I guess. But I think that it depends. What we're attracted to is based on our own personal development and our own level of ability to handle different things. And I know that I've been doing this kind of work, working on myself and my personal development and continuous improvement for like 4 decades. For like 40 years, I've been consciously doing things and studying things and reading things to make myself better and to learn more about how the world works, how we work, how humans work. And so the things that I'm attracted to might not be the things that help you or that you're attracted to in this challenge. And a lot of us, we're worried about right now. What are we going to do right now to put food on the table? How are we going to pay the rent? How am I going to keep my business going and take care of my employees when my business is shut down for months? You know, it was weeks. It was going to be weeks, and that was freaking us out. Now we're looking at months. It's going to be over a month and a half for sure, and it might be longer for some businesses. It might be shorter for other businesses. But that's why I'm using this book, because I want us to not sweat the small stuff, because in the overall grand scheme of things, the vast majority of us will survive and we can thrive through this situation. So I want you focused on what you can do, thriving on it, and being better than when you started out. Now, it's like preaching to the choir. If you're listening to this and you're seeing me, you obviously know this, but realize that you are one of the very unique, very special people that do and that get this and know that you can do something during this time period. The vast majority of the people that are being impacted in this world by the coronavirus are not doing anything proactive. They are sitting home waiting for the government or the world to change or to go back to normal. And 80% of the population is doing that. They're waiting. They're in a holding pattern. They're frozen where they are, not knowing that they can do something and that they must and that they really should do something. And they can use this time period as the gift that it is. But the vast majority of people don't know that. And I think that's really sad. That's the saddest part of this event and the saddest part of this situation. I don't know about you, but I know several people that have had death experiences or near-death experiences or illnesses that should have killed them that are still here. And there's a great divide between what happens to those people after such an event. I, for example, massively changed my life and took my life in a totally different direction. And there's people like me that go that route. And then there are other people, sadly, the vast majority of people that have a huge health event or situation that actually get, well, they might stay the same, but staying the same is kind of like getting worse, or that actually get worse. I know somebody that had a situation like that, and they turned into the most entitled, greedy, curmudgeon-y, angry, horrible person I've ever met. And so people can go either direction with this, just like everything in life, right? It's always up to us what direction we're going to go with the events and the experiences that we have. But there seems to be this big change. But the vast majority of the people in the world are like that. They will not change anyway, because they won't even know that they have the ability to change and think differently and do things differently and be differently and show up differently. And when you do that, that changes the trajectory of your life, and your health is part of your life, right? So there's those two schools of thought. Unfortunately, the majority of people fall into the I'm not going to change, I'm not going to do anything, and so they will be negatively impacted by this situation and any other event or occurrence that happens to come into their life. So our activity today, that's a big long expression of why I'm picking the activities that I am, it's number 56, and it is a 2-pager, of course. It seemed a lot of them to be 2 pages, and it's on page 123 and 124 of the Don't Sweat the Small Stuff workbook, if you happen to have this. Otherwise, I'll take a photo and I'll put it in the comments below. But the activity today is be grateful when you're feeling good and graceful when you're feeling bad. Because I want us to focus on what we can control, what we can do, so that we stay part of that 20% of the population that's going to be light years better off than before we entered the COVID-19 pandemic, right? It's just pandemic quotes, and because I didn't know what a pandemic was until now. So that's our activity today. For your share in the comments to prove that you participated and get this, if you want, I would love for you to share your new question, your power question, or you can share your current or your past question. My past question was WTF. My current question is, what am I creating now? You could share one or the other, or you could share, I don't know, but I'm going to think on this for a couple of days. Trick. If you don't know what your current operating question is, just ask a couple of people that interact with you, because I guarantee they know. They absolutely positively know. people in my life close to me knew what my question was even before I did. And this was, my experience was a clear example of how people know even if I don't consciously know. Because I'd been operating on that question for quite a while, and they had picked up on it even though I wasn't consciously aware of it. So that's it. Have an absolutely amazing day. If I can help you with figuring out your question, I could probably talk to you for 5 minutes, and I could help you identify and figure out what your overriding question is. And then if you need help on determining what would be a better question, I can give you some suggestions of ways and where to look to find that on a one-on-one basis if you're interested. Share in the comments below, and I will of course be with you around for day 27 of our 30-day Get Up and Go challenge. Have an amazing day. Get up and go. Get moving. Take care of yourself. Take care of each other. Take care of your questions and your feelings and your emotions and your beliefs, and everything else will take care of itself. Bye.